afternoon or morning, wherever you are, everyone.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween.
Dia de los Muertos. Those who celebrate.
Today is the
As my
weekend.
child is right now with watching Coco, his favorite movie that we've watched every day for the last month.
It's a good choice.
Doesn't get old, though. It's a great choice. So if you hear him or Coco in the background, you're welcome. Sorry to interrupt your intro.
That's all good. We're doing the Week 9 Waiver Wire show. Getting more important as we go. Unfortunately,
Much more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, the injuries help us talk about new players, but I mean, unfortunately, more of them were actually on the offensive side of the ball, specifically the quarterback side. We'll get into it. You'll talk about him here in a little bit. But I'm Justin Frye at FFF Ballers on X, and he's Joe Harlow at Jolo63. As always, if you guys are looking for written content, we've got a ton of it coming out on the IDP guys website, and you can get in touch with all our writers, ask questions. Besides just on Twitter, in our Discord, we've got a whole bunch of servers to talk all sorts of different things. And as always, ask us questions as we go along. We're happy to answer. Who should I add? Who should I drop? Rank them, whatever you guys got. We'll hit it as quick as we can. And
bouncing off that, also trade questions. Don't have to keep it redraft. Justin and I do a lot of Dynasty, so if you have some Dino questions, hit us up. But we're definitely gonna lean more towards the waivers.
I actually thought you were talking trades. Like, hopefully, we'll get a couple come through here shortly. So
hopefully.
But
that trade deadline as well.
Yeah, because that's 4 o'clock Eastern. So
yeah,
2 hours,
something like that.
I don't know. I can never keep track of the time.
I think
but
2 hours.
It's sometime today. That's usually transactions. I think is 4. So, do you want to dive into injuries? We'll see if we got them all in here. There's a bunch this week.
Oh my God, we did. So the injury report. I guess let's just go by position. A pretty important position. The quarterback, Desmond Ridder, concussion. Probably. Heineke came in. For the times to bench Ridder, this would have been a weird one. So definitely think the concussion seems more likely, and Heineke wasn't all that great. So if you are playing Ridder now, I would still stick with him, ? Unless he's out this week, of course. Kenny Pickett, rib injury. He was in a lot of pain. It was also really weird. I don't know if you're watching that game live, Justin. That was our local game in Omaha for some reason. But he was marked as probable and was like, oh, he's on the sideline, going to play this first snap of the second half. Then Mitchell Trubisky came out, and they immediately ruled Pickett out. It was in like a 45-second span. It was so weird.
That is bizarre.
Yeah, but when he got hurt initially, he was in a lot of pain. It's like, he is one tough dude, but says he's playing this week, which wouldn't surprise me. Against the Titans, don't really care. Don't play him. Even in a super flex, I would not want to play him. Against the Titans, I don't know if I said against the Steelers. He's with the Steelers. Also, Matt Stafford, another injury, this time in his throwing thumb. UCL tear. UCL. I don't know if UCL is in the thumb.
It's UCL and then thumb. Yeah.
Okay. I'm still in baseball mind, even though my O's got knocked out, sadly, a while ago. But fun World Series, that's another topic. And then Kirk Cousins, as we all saw Sunday, with an Achilles injury, done for the year. We'll get into some replacements there in a little bit.
They got a replacement too.
They did. Yes. Elsewhere on the offensive side of the ball, Deontay Johnson got hurt again. He did come back, then left. Then who knows with him? He's always hurt. Feels like he destroys everything in his body every week and then just fine. So we'll see. Curtis Samuel also left the game. Jamison Crowder came in and was awesome in relief. Darren Waller got hurt again. Kendrick Bourne, ACL. Is it confirmed? Torn ACL?
Yep.
Love Kendrick Bourne. That makes me sad. I rationally love Kendrick Bourne.
We might talk about someone we talked about last week as a result again.
Yeah, yes, we will. Is that most of the guys on the offensive side of the ball? There's a Blackman on their dock, and I cannot remember who this is for the life of me right now. Help me out there. Oh,
he left the game. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I thought he was all right.
He might have come back. Honestly, I
don't remember, which is go me as a Colts fan. But also in the defensive backfield, Minkah Fitzpatrick done for Thursday night, or not playing at Thursday night. Jamal Adams was hurt in the game. I do think he came back. I think he actually had to play on the last play of the game.
He came back.
Brandon Jones had a head injury. Also with the Colts, Zaire Franklin had an injury. He did come back. He only missed a couple snaps, but it is something to monitor. I feel like a lot of those ankle injuries, guys will come back for the rest of the game and then miss the next week. I don't have any data on that, but that's just a feel. Grady Jarrett tore his ACL. And he was replaced in a trade. So that sucks. One of the top D tackles on a contender. Juwan Bentley, linebacker for the Patriots, knee injury. To be determined as well. I feel like we have not gotten any confirmations on injuries so far, outside of Bourne's ACL and the Achilles, except for the huge ones. But
as I said, the bad ones, that just means you're gonna have to monitor game status as we go, which will be fun.
Yeah. Also have Trey Hendrickson managing an ankle injury, should go.
The coach said they were gonna limit his reps all week so he can play.
Perfect. Perfect for his status, not for his health, but that's a good sign. He should play. Then Tremaine Edmonds also had a knee injury, and like all of the others, to be determined. Good morning, good evening, Marco from the future. See the comment in there from Fantasy Sports, and we will hit that when we get to our DBs. And I think Justin and I are going to be very excited about that question.
Yeah.
Without spoiling anything, you're darn right they are. So next topic, buys. There weren't any this week, as we talked about last week, because the NFL is weird. This week buys Denver Broncos, Detroit Lions, Jacksonville Jaguars, and the surging in the negative direction San Francisco 49ers. So that's only 4 teams, but that's a lot of names that we're going to be missing this week. So we're going to try to help you out with some stopgap options in there. Next topic, trades. Today is a trade deadline, as we discussed briefly. Justin, do you want to get into some of the trades that have gone down so far?
Sure. We had, 4 trades
that we see, and we will be monitoring and updating the show as if we see anything.
3 that probably are worthy of monitoring in some of the leagues, especially some IDP leagues. So yesterday, Leonard Williams was dealt from the Giants to Seattle for a 2nd rounder this year and a 5th rounder next year. Feels like a pretty good deal for both sides, expiring deal. Seattle's making a push. Yeah. Good news for everyone for next year is the Seahawks trade away their 2nd round pick, so no addition to that backfield with Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet next year. So no more 2nd round running backs.
They'll just take Braylon Allen on the top of the 3rd.
Don't put that into the world.
You don't act like Pete hasn't already.
Commanders this morning traded Montez Sweat to the Bears for a 2024 2. So hopefully it works out better for them than the Claypool deal last year, even though
there's literally no way it can't. There's no way it can be worse.
I don't understand why. So a lot of people have been kind of saying, why would you do this when he's a potential free agent? I mean, one, then you have to negotiate with everyone. My guess is that they probably already know what he wants in a deal, and some sort of an extension will get worked out. At the very least, he's for sure getting franchise tagged. And the Bears have, I think, the most cap space of anyone next year right now. So why not do it?
Yeah,
that's the real question.
Is it an overpay? Slightly. However, Leonard Williams went for a 2+ yesterday, and he's 4 years older and on the interior. And last year, Bradley Chubb went for a 1.
The other thing that fantasy people sometimes don't always take into account is the Bears front office guys, Ryan Poles, their head coach, Matt Eberflus, they still need to win to keep their jobs. So, like, and they actually get him for a bunch of games this year, too. So, like, there is that piece of it as well that fantasy people seem to be either tank, especially people who play Dynasty. It's like tank for next year, be bad. And it's like that can lose you your job. So, like,
can lose your job. You also need to keep talent.
Give and take. And what player that elite pass rusher, is going to be there in the second round, even at 33, best case scenario? Like, Versey and Turner are going to go top 10 to 15.
Yeah, Chop Robinson, JT Tuimoloau.
It's a good draft
top 25.
It's a good draft for edges, but like there's a few of them and they're all going to go in the first round. So it's trade that pick, trade up for one, or.
And while it's a good edge class, it's not a great pass rushing edge class. There's a lot of like badass players there. Tuimoloau and Verse are great run defenders. They have some pass rush juice, but that's not their calling card. So
okay, so we probably hammered that one for a little bit. I just
one other thing there. Apparently, Chase Young is still being shopped, which initially it seemed like they would sell one of them, which would make sense since they would not be able to franchise or keep both Chase Young and Montez Sweat. But Young being dealt to seems to be likely at this point from what I've seen.
I mean, if they can get another 2024 second round pick, I saw someone.
And they're probably going to get a 1 for Young.
I saw someone basically being like, I forget what team. The year the Jets went up for Zach Wilson, I think they traded 3 2s.
3 2s to my Colts.
From 6 to 3. So someone's like, well, if you don't have to give up a future 1 and you have 3 2s or something, if you're the Commanders, doesn't that make more sense? Like,
and the Commanders actually, a lot of Colts right now gave up a second rounder, which was the 35th pick, and a future second to move up to pick Montez Sweat. And I think they moved from 35 to 26, something like that. So value-wise, Sweat, Young, it's a lot, especially for an expiring, but
you also know what you're getting, unlike the draft where, it's a little up and down sometimes.
Yep.
Not everyone hits. So we beat that one. Josh Dobbs just got dealt to the Vikings from the Cardinals. Not surprising since they benched him. But that one at least is intriguing to me. More so, one, it probably props up the Vikings pass catchers here for a little bit more than they would have been with just Jaron Hall as their quarterback. That system's got to be fairly similar, if I remember right. Petzig came from the Cleveland tree, Stefanski, so I think they all kind of bridge under that Shanahan-McVay style of offense, so it shouldn't be a big jump for him. So they gave up Dobbs in a 7th and got a 6th, so pretty minimal investment there for the Vikings too. But that should help everyone who's got a Jordan Addison, who's got a TJ Hawkinson, who was waiting for Justin Jefferson to come back. It's not going to be Kirk Cousins, but
it's something. As much as I like Jaron Hall as a prospect, and as our guy Shandon and Frye BYU fans like him, he's not it right now. He was very developmental, so this is good for them.
And the last one, the last deal, Contavious Street went for, I think, something similar, a 6-7 swap from the
might have been a 5-6, but
from the Eagles to the Falcons to replace Grady Jarrett, who, like Joe said, in the injuries tore his ACL.
Again, if we see any more, we'll hit them as we go. But we're going to get into the waiver wire.
Yeah, so we'll start on IDP, head to O as we go. So as we get to the different sections, we'll hit your questions. And if questions come in after we get through them, we'll circle back. We'll get through as much as we can. With that, D-line. Overall, D-line, we struggled a little more than some of the other spots. We actually had a pretty good week on the waiver wire last week with some of our calls. So 1-1-1. Hoyt got a sack. He was the win. Hall got 3 tackles. Derek Hall for the Seahawks got 3 tackles. Decent. Playing time ticked up. Unfortunately, Odafe Owe didn't hold up his end and kind of struggled in his return from an ankle.
How would you rate those 3 for the rest of the season? Just real quick.
Hoyt, I'll take Hoyt 1, Owe 2, Hall 3.
I would agree if you need someone, but if you're looking for upside, I'm going swap in Owe and Hoyt. Just do think Owe can get back to form in the next couple of weeks, but Hoyt is the better play right now and for probably the next 2-3 weeks. It's still close.
And we got the Jaguars just traded for the Vikings Ezra Cleveland. So it's just an offensive line.
I like that.
Good for Trevor Lawrence and probably really good for Travis Etienne, who's already been really good all year and has killed Trevor Lawrence's value. So
not forever though. By Trevor Lawrence dynasty.
At some point he'll throw touchdowns. So
do you see what the I saw second rounder, but he was picking the second round. That's what that is. He's already in the final year of his deal. Jeez.
Apparently, first one typically doesn't come through with.
Yeah.
We'll see it shortly.
Probably like fourth. Anyway,
deal, it might be like a 5-6 swap even. But go ahead.
So first name, Jamie's very excited. I think it's Poco Loco time, so he's going to be jazzed right now. So first name, Jermaine Johnson, one of my absolute favorite players in the league, was a draft crush of mine 2 years ago now. Is that the right way to say it? But he has the last 3 weeks, he's been the top edge snap getter. He's not as explosive as a Bryce Huff, who also is definitely a guy to go get, but he's been awesome. 6 tackles, 2 sacks last week against the Giants. Which gross. And they have a Chargers matchup this week. And while Herbert's good at evading sacks, their offensive tackles have really struggled. The right side of the line is a nightmare. And Slater's still been struggling a little bit, getting back to health. And going into last week, the Chargers were the 8th best matchup for a defensive end. So it's a good sign. I don't know what the Bears did to that, but it's the Bears. Pre-Montez Sweat, so don't really care. He's a good play. He's going to blow up. I know in our newsletter, I think 3 weeks ago now, he was tabbed as a blow-up guy. So this is your last chance. And Justin, I think you wrote about him saying that in your article as well this week.
Yep, I did. I called it, last call on Jermaine Johnson.
Yeah, if he's there, go get him.
6th rounder for Cleveland.
Ooh, by the way. Okay, good for Jacksonville. Their line has been rough. Okay, I'll let you hit your next defensive lineman.
All right, so next one we'll talk about Baron Browning, the Denver Broncos. So this one's more of a long-term play. He is on bye this week, but it was only his 2nd game back. The first week game back was nothing to write home about. 45% of snaps, got just 1 tackle. This past week against KC, though, he was all over Patrick Mahomes. 4 tackles, 2 sacks, a forced fumble. In just the 2nd game back, and he jumped from 45 to nearly 60% of snaps. The Broncos have no reason to not see what they have in all their young guys, so I expect Browning's snaps to continue to tick up. And they really don't have a bad schedule coming down a stretch of teams that you can get sacks on. The Bills, the Vikings, the Browns, Texans, Chargers, Lions, Patriots, Chargers again. Like, there's really maybe the Lions that you would not really want to play against, but I don't see a bad matchup really on that schedule coming home. So someone I would be willing to go get, redraft, trade for a dynasty.
Yeah, I know he's a very divisive player in the dynasty community. I know Dynasty Santa on our staff is not a fan, as he said when he came in a couple weeks ago, but his snaps have gone up. It's a good pickup, I think, at this point. Yeah. If nothing else, he's an upside shot.
Yeah. Then we get some other less guys we want to go through, but just some guys to watch for. you want to take the first one?
Sure. First, let's hit KJ Henry, the Commanders' probable replacement for Montez Sweat. He was where did he go with this?
I think it was in the fifth round.
Fifth round. Okay, that's what I thought. I know he had some third round grades, but he was kind of all over the place. But he did outproduce some other Clemson teammates who were drafted higher, which will happen with good D lines sometimes. And he's obviously the worst of their D linemen right now, but they're three absolute monsters on that D line in Washington, unless Chase Young gets traded. So there's going to be a lot of open looks for him to make some plays.
Yeah, so you're not going to have to worry about him getting doubled, getting chipped by the tight end. They're not going to throw extra blockers to his side. Like, he should get one-on-one on the whatever side they want to isolate him on. So,
yeah.
Let's see. Harold Landry we'll bring up quickly. Maybe more shallow leagues, but he did pretty well, 3 sacks in his last couple of games, and he seems to be rounding back into form off the ACL from last year. And the last name to touch on, at some point today, I do expect Josh Uche to get dealt from the Patriots, probably for a third rounder. And assuming that deal goes through, when he was out this past week, Keon White stepped up and played like 90% of snaps. They play the Commanders this week, and if he's getting 90% of snaps, I think he put up 3 tackles. He had one of the highest pressure rates of any rookie in the preseason. I do think that's something he can do very well at the NFL level. And he wrecked, I think it was Ahmed last week against the Dolphins. They tried to run a trick play end around a little bit, and he stayed home. So Bill will like the fact that he's got good eye discipline and gap discipline, so he should have earned more playing time, not less, with how he looked last week.
Yep. No arguments there.
We'll hop down to linebacker next.
I do believe we have a D lineman question in here.
We do.
Actually. Yeah, we do. Chase Young or Will Anderson for Kwity Paye, Cam Hayward, I assume. Well, that's another name we need to bring back up since he will be coming back from IR soon. I think week 10 was their target, or maybe after their week 10 bye, if that's when theirs is. George Karlaftis, Matabuke, Jermaine Johnson. So I guess let's just go ranking these guys for rest of this season. I will say, just right off the bat, Will Anderson is number 1 on this list if this is a dynasty or keeper league. I'm assuming this is not. So
I think Chase Young is number 2.
I would agree in that scenario. For the rest of this season.
I also think for the rest of this season, they probably are 1 and 2 for me. Young might not have the production, but he's been pressuring the quarterback at a really, really strong clip. He's up there with a lot of the elite pass rushers.
I think he does. Does he not have much production this year?
I don't think it's been as good as it should be. He's kind of doing what Jalen Phillips did last year, I think.
Is that what's going on? He has 5 sacks on the year, only 12 solo tackles. Yes, so 5 sacks on the year is. So Chase Young is my 1 for this. I actually am going to have Will Anderson close to the bottom. Just his production he's similar thing. He's been awesome on the field. If stats weren't a thing, I think he's a runaway defensive rookie of the year. He's been that good, but 1 sack on the year, maybe a half. Tackles aren't there. Opposing offenses have really been trying to stop him. And this week with Carolina, I was really hoping that would be the breakout one, but everyone on the D-line but him made plays, and I kind of think that's how it's going to go the rest of the year.
All right, so there's a few breakouts on here. Karlaftis had a great week. Jermaine Johnson obviously had a great week. Kwity Paye's been pretty great all year. If you're looking for – it kind of a little bit depends on what type of league settings you're in, how much tackles matter.
Yeah.
I think I'm taking Karlaftis 1 of the ads.
After the – okay.
If you're looking to add someone, I think I would add Karlaftis, then
Paye,
then Johnson, I think. those two are pretty close.
Yeah, I would flip them, but it's also.
And then Hayward's more of like a tackle guy for me, so he's probably a little lower, and I'd probably take Matabuke over him because he seems to have a little more juice in the pass rush. But if you're looking for just a safer floor, I think Hayward probably has that over most all of these guys.
Yeah, I think to fully rank, Chase Young is 1. Then I think Karlaftis, Jermaine Johnson, Anderson / Pay, really depends if you need upside there or not. Then Matabuke, Hayward is my order. So I would be willing to drop Anderson for Karlaftis, Jermaine Johnson, and maybe Pay at this point. I wouldn't like it, but if you need someone to start and get you points, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, feels reasonable.
I don't like it though.
Linebackers. All right, linebackers. Ooh. We went pretty good last week, 3-1. I mean, Tranquil was a pretty easy call to add.
Yeah.
So enjoy that one if you got him. Mayo.
Yeah, Justin in our dynasty league.
Only a 66 bid against nothing else. That was weird. But
I mean, you had more fab than me and the priority, so I didn't even try. We talked about it on here. I was like, oh, I have no chance.
I might have bid exactly what Joe had in fab with priority, just because I knew he would be the one that would bid against me for sure.
Yep.
So Mayo on the Commanders, solid. Gibbons on the Titans, solid. Terrell Dodson, I don't know what the heck the Bills are doing. I kind of think that's a trade spot, to be honest. Someone might go in there because Dorian played 0% of the defensive snaps last week. After 2 weeks ago, he had 10 tackles on, played it full time. I'm like, no, I don't understand what they're doing, but whatever. With that, with the one of the top injuries being Tremaine Edmonds, and no status. He did not return to that game, as far as I'm aware. With that, I think it was a knee injury. I'm gonna bring back Jack Sanborn, the darling of the waiver wire last year. Put up 8 tackles. I don't even think he might have barely crossed 50% of snaps. He really didn't play a ton, like I would have expected, honestly. But I would think that would change for sure if Edmonds is out. And like I said, he crushed it down the stretch last year to the point everyone was sad when they went outside Edmonds and TJ Edwards, because why are you paying this much for linebackers when you already have Sanborn, who's did great last year? So if he's out there, he's a guy. I don't know if he's a 1 week guy, if he's a multi-week guy, we'll see. Unfortunately, you're probably not going to get that information until after waivers run. So if you need a linebacker,
I'm not seeing anything.
If you need a linebacker, I wouldn't be super aggressive. I would have been aggressive last week on Tranquil or even on Mayo, and I still would prioritize Mayo because he's got 3 more weeks because what's his name? IR. Put Barton on IR. Yeah. But for a 1 week play, he's probably kind of near Gibbons in that I would just plug him in, hope for 7-8 tackles, and keep me afloat. Yeah. Want to take the next one?
Yes. So next name, Leo Chenal for the Chiefs. He played 69% of snaps on the week. Willie Gay was down at 41. Do believe there was some sort of injury situation going on there, but also not sure how long-term that is, if at all. But still, even on less than 70% of snaps, he had 8 tackles and a sack. Chenal gets used a lot as a rusher from goodness gracious, words are hard, from the off-ball linebacker spot. So there's some extra upside added in there. He's had a couple sacks on the year. Good play, especially if Gay is out, with Nick Bolton already being on the shelf for the next couple weeks, 2 months. So again, a lot depends on Willie Gay's status, but good sign for Chenal.
Yeah. Last guy I want to touch on, Mac Wilson, senior for the Patriots. They're playing at home against the Commanders this week. So Jerome Bentley was another one that got brought up in the injured section. He was ruled out pretty quickly in that game, honestly. So makes me think he's probably at the very least missing this week. While Jelani Tavai played like 100% of the snaps, he kind of jumps around inside, outside. He's been playing a lot of edge with Uche and Judon both hurt. So I think he kicks inside when they go to one linebacker and plays outside with multiple linebackers. Commanders aren't a team you're probably going to run a ton of dime packages against. You'd probably run more nickel and keep Mac Wilson and Tavai out there together. Mac Wilson got 7 tackles without Bentley on just 60% of snaps. It looked pretty good from what I saw. Made a couple really nice plays, getting through blocks and getting to the ball carrier. So I would imagine he earned more time, and the Patriots season isn't going anywhere. I think he's on an expiring deal, so they might as well see what they have and see if they want to keep him around for another year or not. He's played well whenever he's gotten an opportunity to play. Teams just don't seem to want to give him the opportunity. So I'd like to see him get it a little bit.
Yep. Other questions we have in here? Oh, for follow-up from that D-line question, 10 points for sacks. The rest can be seen here.
Solo tackles 5, assists 3. I think I'm going to target the pass rushers there.
To bring those names back up.
Know how often the D linemen are getting solo tackles. Honestly, some of your edgers might get them on run plays to the outside, but that's my stance. Is I think I'm going to prioritize the edges, and if that's the setup, I probably would be more than happy to drop Anderson for Karlaftis or Jermaine Johnson.
Yep. And have a linebacker question in here. I think we did at the same time.
Let's
prioritizing Dean, Perryman, Tranquil, Lloyd, and Chenal.
So
Chenal's at the bottom for sure.
I was going to say there's a clear top 2 in here to me, and it's Tranquil and Dean. Dean finally got back to full time this last week and put up as numbers as a result. They're both top 10 linebackers, I think, rest of the season at this point for me. Lloyd is more of a top 24 type guy. Same with Perriman, and then Chenal's hopefully playable.
Yeah.
So I'm taking. The question here is, do you think that Bolton can come back at some point and kill Tranquil's value? That would be the only reason I would put Dean ahead of Tranquil. I think I'm still putting Tranquil. I think I'll put Tranquil first, just because if I'm chasing and hoping for the next couple months, I think I'll start there. And if I need to, I can find something else as I go. But I could see Dean too, honestly. But the Eagles have apparently been poking around at linebacker as well to put someone next to Dean. So,
if they don't add anyone by 4:00 Eastern, I would have Dean as the top one, slightly over Tranquil, just with the Bolton risk. But yeah, that's tight. Then I would go Lloyd slightly over Perryman. Just Perriman's been injured for so long, and even this week he was great, but only played 50% of snaps. It's just kind of a weird room there right now. Then Chenal, like we said, just hopefully he's playable, but maybe isn't. All right, so on to the defensive backs.
Oof, it's a rough week at defensive back.
It really is. Last week we went 3-1. Our miss was Andre Shashri. I hit it last week, but he goosed. So
yeah, they benched him. So he plays 100% of snaps like 3 straight weeks, and then plays like 3 defensive snaps, 2 defensive snaps last week. I don't know what that staff is doing.
Real cool. The rest of the guys, though, we hit on. Cam Taylor-Britt, 6 tackles. Same for Marquise Bell, who was still running at linebacker 2, if I remember correctly. So fun there. And then Elijah Molden did up being the guy who took over for Kevin Byard and had 7 tackles on the week. So yay. This week. First name, Jordan Howden. He is a safety for the Saints, if you didn't know that. He took over for Marcus May last week, who was ill and had a really good game. 8 tackles. I think he had 1 for a loss. Might be making that up. But he played every single snap. The Saints do like him and trust him. And he actually ended up pushing Tyrann Mathieu out to the free safety, deep safety role, while he took the slot and box role. So if May does miss more time, which either due to this illness or he has been pretty injury prone over the last couple of years, he is someone you can take a shot on, but he is very much injury dependent at this point.
Yeah. So was our next guy, Keanu Neal versus the Titans on Thursday Night Football. They already ruled Minka out, and as a result of Minka missing a lot of the last game, that resulted in Keanu Neal having a full-time role. They moved him around like they moved Minka around, and he's already come out and said in an interview that he expects that to happen again versus the Titans. He racked up 7 tackles and a forced fumble in the game this past week. And, I mean, it's the Titans playing likely a rookie quarterback who, while he looked pretty good this past week, I would imagine, I mean, I don't know if you saw the clip of Vrabel looking like he was mad at him after the game. I have no idea what Vrabel's doing, but interesting. Maybe they'll try to run the ball more. It's not a great matchup to try to run the ball for the Titans, but
I do have Derrick Henry, so does that really matter?
I
Who knows?
don't know.
We'll get into the Titans offense.
I wouldn't be surprised if Neal gets a turnover in the game, plus a
Yeah.
solid tackle floor.
He's a good play this week.
Yeah.
Last name we have, Tyreek Stevenson, corner for the Bears. Had 12 tackles last week, which is awesome from the cornerback spot. He has 32 tackles, or 8 per game over the last 4. So that is a crazy floor to have for a corner, especially a guy who's mostly on the boundary. Their top corner, Jalen Johnson, is rumored to be dealt. Oh, here we go. We have news.
The Jags
Chase Young is going to be traded
to San Francisco for a
to
mid-round
San
pick in
Francisco
2024.
for a mid-rounder. That's absurd.
So that's probably a 2 or a 3, maybe multiple.
Wow. If Chase Young went for less than Montez Sweat, that would be something. Be very surprising. 3rd round pick. Wow. So KJ Henry.
I don't even. I gotta even go look at the depth chart to see. I don't even know who else is there in Washington. If you keep going on Stevenson, I'll pull it up and see.
So Tyreek Stevenson also is going against the Saints. So Derek Carr is top 5 in pass attempts, and Tyreek Stevenson is top 5 this year in targets against, or in being targeted, and in penalties. So he is going to be targeted a lot, which is going to keep that tackle floor high, especially with receivers in Michael Thomas, Rashid Shaheed, and Chris Olave, who are not the best tackle breakers. So Tyreek Stevenson's another good play, especially in cornerbacks.
Do you want me to go through this depth chart? Because I couldn't even tell you who else to prioritize besides KJ Henry. So I'm on the ESPN depth chart. They have KJ Henry 3rd on the left defensive end behind Chase Young and F.A. Obata.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I still think Henry's the add of all of these guys because, one, he's the rookie. The other name I actually kind of recognized and heard before, Casey Toohill. Former 7th rounder. He's been playing some. He has a couple sacks in the year. Maybe he's the other guy on the opposite side. Andre Jones Jr. is another name on their another former 7th round pick.
James Smith Williams, is that his name? Yeah, it has been playing the most snaps aside from Young and Sweat. So
Oh, they already updated it. Yeah, he is the right defensive end starter now. Is what the ESPN depth chart has. Sorry,
Okay.
it's lots of seventh round picks.
Oof.
And Shaka Tony is also
Yeah.
suspended and should be back soon.
For the year, right?
Was he the year?
Oh,
Okay,
he only get that. I thought he got the full year.
definitely.
Another note
Yeah.
on that D line, Fedarian Mathis, who is an interior player, did come back from injury this week. So he's another name. Maybe they'll just run a big front. But honestly, Mathis is probably the top ad for the D line room. Maybe over Henry, but wow.
We'll hit on a D line question: Pay or Barmore? I'll take Pay, unless it's any kind of league where you really want tackles. But even then, Barmore is more of a pass rusher. He's been doing really well recently, but yeah, I'll take Pay. We had a question on Chase Young with Bosa with Jesus at D line.
With Javon Hargrave, with Eric Armstead, Fred Warner, Jerry Green.
I don't think honestly, he goes from a talented D line to a talented D line. I don't see it as long as they're willing to give him a near full time role. I think it's good for him.
Yeah, I think it'll be good for Bosa too, who's been struggling a little bit. Get some of the pressure.
You were surprised at the return. My guess is the difference here is the Bears are going to keep Sweat at the end of the year, and my guess is you're only getting a third because the Niners probably are going to prioritize their little bit of cap space on Ayuk over keeping Chase Young.
Which would make sense.
Let's see. We had a couple DB questions. So let's.
Yes.
Fantasy Sports asked about waiver wire. Metellus, Duggar, Ryan Neal, Von Bell, Xavier Woods, Justin Simmons, or Isaiah Simmons? I'm going to assume Justin Simmons because he had the good week this past week. So Neal's pretty clearly my top guy in that group.
Yep. Baker's dozen this week.
Yeah, we can kind of, before we hop into it, we've got this one on here too. So we'll talk about Duggar a little bit, and then we can hop to Kyle Hamilton after we get these guys ordered. Duggar, I want to see if we can make it through the day with him still on the Patriots. I'd be mildly surprised if they traded him, but he does make sense if someone really wants a really good safety. Who can play all over. The issue with him is I haven't looked at the PFF numbers to see. Did you look at all at the Patriots? I'm just not sure if he's gotten up into the box more or not. The issue with him is he's been playing so much free safety that it's been killing his value.
I'm pulling that up right now.
Okay, so to me, Neal is the clear one. If I know Von Bell is healthy, I would take him too. Then I'll take the upside of Duggar.
So this week, Duggar was in the box/slot 65-70% of the time.
Okay, if he can play that role, he probably should be over Ryan Neal. But
over the last 3 weeks, he's been there 60% of the time with some quick mental math.
Okay, so
65.
Then I retract Von Bell being second. I will take. I think it's still Ryan Neal one, but Duggar's got a case. If he's playing that role, he's got a case, especially without Bentley. It wouldn't shock me if he stays up there and basically plays de facto linebacker. He was calling the plays when Bentley went out. So I think it's Neal and then Duggar, but that's real close. Von Bell's right behind him.
Yep.
And after those three, it's a pretty clear drop to me. I think Woods is playing deep with Bell up front, so he's probably last because Metellus at least has a higher tackle floor, playing the slot corner role. And he's probably who I prioritize over Simmons because he's playing this week.
Even without the bye, I'm still Metellus would be the one for me. He is making plays every week too. So
Yeah.
I would go Duggar over Neal, just purely upside shot, but it's super, super close.
So Jesse Bates, probably for the
probably
first two, and then hold
Yep.
Bell over, unless I know
If
Bell's
Bell
cleared.
was healthy,
Yeah.
I'd be more willing to, but we don't know that right now.
Yeah, you were saying the exact same thing.
Yep. Look at us.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Let's see. So do you want to talk about the other one? So we talked about Duggar. If he's playing that role, yes, he's back. That is, he's playing 100% of snaps, and now he's going to play a 60 to 70% box role. That's elite level DBs. That's the type of guy you want as a top 10 guy. If he's doing that, I gotta look at that stuff more often because my rankings have him thoroughly misranked. So yeah, Duggar's back if he's doing that. So yeah, fire him up.
Absolutely.
Kyle Hamilton, you want to talk about your guy?
If you have any thoughts on it, first go for it. I know last week we did talk about how his role has not been as bad as it seems like. A lot of it was sullied over the last few weeks by the weird ejection. But
it's that, and then I honestly think that the Roquan Smith trade and everything really hurt him. Like the reason Jalen Petrie, right? That's how
Petrie.
I'm so bad with goodness pronunciations. So the reason he did so well last year was because the Houston linebackers were terrible. So the reverse is happening to Hamilton. And that's honestly why Petrie struggled this year, is because the linebacker playing in front of him is a lot better with a linebacker head coach who was a really good linebacker in his day.
And Jimmy Ward.
So Hamilton is good. He's going to have his weeks. He's going to struggle in some weeks because, Roquan will some weeks he'll have 15 tackles.
And have to mention with Roquan that he unlocked Patrick Queen. That's honestly one of the biggest impacts of Roquan is that Patrick Queen is a legit linebacker now. He doesn't have to be the linebacker one. He can just be the missile that he is. I do think Hamilton still, if you start two DBs, he's a clear start every week. The last 2 weeks with 17 total tackles, you're going to get that with some big plays in there. And then you're also going to have some weeks with 1 tackle or 3 tackles when he doesn't get ejected.
I'd probably looking to pair him with a guy like Ryan Neal, where I've got a safer tackle floor, and then I'll play him next to it. But it would scare me a little bit to play him next to Minka, Antoine Winfield, even though he tends to always have a high tackle floor. Free safeties scare me week in, week out. They are just very volatile, and you've already got that with Hamilton, so I just wouldn't want to play 2 of them next to each other.
Yeah, and Hamilton does have the role more locked down for the slot nickel sort of play, especially with how Stone's been at free safety. He's been incredible. Another ad, if he's still out there, he's an upside shot, but he's been so good.
Yeah, we should probably
pushing Marcus Williams. Yeah, we should. Got to get going pretty quick.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot.
Yep. Just another reminder, offensive questions, if you have some, we'll touch them, but
we see one. We're gonna hop on that.
Yes.
Once we get the wide receiver.
Yep. So 2 names at quarterback this week. First one, have to mention, Will Levis had hell of a fantasy day last week. 4 touchdowns in his first start. Love to see that. Made DeAndre Hopkins viable for the first time in a while. Horrible matchup this week or I wouldn't say horrible, not a great matchup with Pittsburgh this week. He's not going to have a 4-touchdown game again, most likely. He's very volatile. He's a shot play sort of guy, but definitely was over criticized in the draft, in my opinion. And he's a good player. He's a good prospect, but definitely keep on a radar. If you have Trevor Lawrence or Jared Goff in a super flex and it's a buy, you can pick him up, you can start him, and close your eyes. But yep.
So yeah, a couple other. You have a couple other guys you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, Bryce Young is another one. He's been looking a lot better on the field the last few weeks. Fantasy numbers weren't great over those weeks, but still has been good. He's been improving. They've been using Mingo. Thielen's been Adam Thielen. And the next 2 weeks, they have awesome matchups with the Colts and, I just spaced on who the other one was. Who was it?
Bears next week.
There.
They play
his next two matchups. I know they're both the Bears.
They play the Bears on Thursday night next week.
Okay, so yeah, with the Colts and the Bears, those are two awesome matchups, especially if Jalen Johnson gets dealt. A little scarier with Montez Sweat now there, but again, super flex. Or if you're going to be crushed by buys in the next 2 weeks, he's a viable play. But he's been looking better. Their offense is kind of putting it together, maybe almost not on the run game, but. Yep.
Kyler as well.
Yes.
If he happens,
and Josh Dobbs.
If he happens to still be out there, Kyler's a good play. Obviously, long term. The other name I just want to throw out there now that the Commanders have no pass rush is Mac Jones. I don't know what'll happen, but doesn't have a ton of receivers. But yeah, I mean. If he's not getting pressured as much, maybe he'll look a little better.
Yep. Oh, and we should mention last week Baker was our guy that we suggested, and he had a pretty solid stat line.
Yeah, it was another 20-point performance for him. He continues to be able to keep Mike Evans and Chris Godwin propped up to reasonably good fantasy plays.
Running backs.
So
last week, 4-0? We calling that a 4-0?
I mean, none of them were fantastic. They're all RB2s to flex plays. But, I mean, they were all good enough that none of them killed you if you started them. I don't think, I would like a little more upside out of them. But the Rams running backs and the Browns running backs both did fine in not great matchups, honestly. So.
And with the Browns, Jerome Ford did end up playing. So also great sign for him going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that probably made Hunt and Strong sit on people's benches. I know you had a lot of Strong, so I don't think you played him much.
But. No, I don't think I played him anywhere.
Oh, well. Yeah, we got another plan to start Jaron Hall. So
okay. A quick question, though, for the Rams backfield. Darrell Henderson or Royce Freeman going forward until Kyron and Co are back? Because, Freeman did outsnap, but
I think it's gonna be both. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's gonna be who falls in the end zone that week. The one thing I'll say is Henderson has the passing down role, and the issue for me with both of them at this point is actually the fact that Stafford's now likely out. I mean, if Stafford's really out for multiple weeks. I think I'm going to lean Henderson just because I'm not expecting the offense to actually be as good. So my guess is the touchdowns are less. So I'll bet on the pass catcher in Henderson over the bigger back in Freeman. But I don't really want to play either, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And with Matt Stafford, he probably still going to play because, he's Matt Stafford and is an animal back there. But if he's out, it's rough. It's rough. It is rough.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping what's his name from Stetson would come back soon enough.
Yes. Yeah. Who is their backup right now? I know Ripon played, but
I think it's Brett Ripon is going to play.
He's not on their roster technically.
I mean, that's fine. Neither is Darrell Henderson technically.
No, I think they cut Ripon. I thought I saw that they don't have an active quarterback on their roster or practice squad. I think. It might be one of those things where they just cut him to.
If you talk to the first running back, I'll pull it up.
Okay. I saw something weird there. First running back, Gus Edwards. He had the hat trick on touchdowns last week on 19 carries, 80 yards. On a spectacular 52% of snaps. Technically was second running back in snaps behind Patrick Ricard, but that's the fullback. So it's kind of still going to be a hit or miss between Edwards and Justice Hill, but Gus right now, even on only 52% snaps, had 19 carries. That was definitely helped by the Arizona matchup, but he wants more snacks. Sorry.
Oh, I'm not saying anything. It seems like Ripon is the guy.
I will be right back.
Yeah, no worries. Cam Akers is the next name I want to bring up. So with the injury to Cousins, expectation is that their Vikings pass heavy ways will go from pass heavy to run heavy. I mean, their defense has been solid and has been keeping them in games. So if I were them, I would transition to more running the football. And I think that Alexander Madison hasn't been it, and Akers has been better. So while he only played 24% of the snaps, he did get the start early in the game. He was looking like the better runner. He actually has the only rushing touchdown that the Vikings have scored all season, despite getting there a couple weeks after Madison and barely playing. Well, Madison's been playing like a full-time role for the first month at least. So if I'm O'Connell, I'm more willing to lean on the running game, and I'm going to play whichever running back has been better. So I do believe that Akers has a shot to take over a full-time role. I think I heard you come back. Sorry, I'm looking at the show doc. So
yes, I am back.
You want to talk your favorite Bears running back?
Yes, Roschon Johnson. Kind of gross this week with the Saints matchup. Don't really want to play him, but he did lead the team in running back snaps last week. Darrington Evans did get the touchdown, but Roschon still is the most talented guy in the backfield. He's back. If you need a shot at a running back on the Bears, he is the one I would want to go to, even though Deonta Foreman did have the hat trick 2 weeks ago. Roschon came in and did outsnap him. The Bears are going to be behind in a lot of games, which will get Roschon on the field more as he's a very good pass catching and pass blocking back. I don't expect a huge upside for him. He won't be a 90% snap guy, but he should be the lead back the rest of the season until Khalil Herbert comes back and makes it even hairier. But he still, upside-wise, is someone I think is definitely worth rostering at this point and playing in better matchups against better teams.
Right. So before we switch over to wide receiver quick, we'll grab safeties. Let's see. Duggar, Hamilton, Neal, Hill, and Bates. Bates is pretty clear 5 for me.
It might be that order for me, honestly.
I would move Dax Hill up.
Over Neal or over Hamilton?
Both.
Okay.
I might put him over Duggar too.
Really?
Just in case Duggar's role doesn't stay. I mean, it's been all over the place. If he has that role, great.
Yeah.
And then I could.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I think I would put Hamilton 4 behind Neal. I just like that tackle floor. So I would probably flip Dax Hill and Hamilton.
I don't think that's unreasonable. I probably would actually move Hill to second there as well. Now that think about it a little more. So yeah, Duggar, Dax, Hamilton, Neal, Bates for me. And Hamilton, Neal, yeah, it's kind of what you need.
So Sanborn, he's worth a grab if you get the open spot. If you're good, if there's no reason you would play him this week, then I wouldn't bother. But if you need a linebacker to play, then and have a roster spot you can use, then yes, he's worth adding. For some, I mean, it could be a week or two, it could be longer. I mean, there's been nothing on Tremaine Evans' status so far. So,
yeah.
And we had a running back question. Rest of season, Pacheco for Jacobs, Connor once healthy. Oof. So
Jacobs is the one, right?
I think so.
Or-
I think it's him or Pacheco. It kind of depends what you want. Jacobs is more likely to be an RB1
Mhm.
any given week, but he's also been super inconsistent. And that team, just in general, just looks broken.
Yeah.
Pacheco is a pretty safe RB2 at this point.
Mhm.
I think he's been a top 15-ish running back pretty consistently. Probably not this last week. He struggled against the Broncos. But if Connor's healthy, I think I'd put him over Ford just because the Browns have been just not great offensively. I'm hoping Watson can come back and kind of fix the offense a little bit. But I think I would take Connor over Ford.
Yeah, I think so. But that's a big if for the health there.
Yep. The Browns are trading. Oh, we got one.
Go ahead.
Browns trading wide receiver Donovan Peoples-Jones to the Lions.
Oh, I like that for Detroit.
Yeah, it also makes.
And for my other guy,
I
Cedric Tillman.
was going to say we can talk about him now in the waiver section, which we are on
Yes.
to the wide receivers. So
I'm going to add that name in real quick.
I'll start and talk about the Bills wide receiver 3, Khalil Shakir, bumped up to 65% of snaps without Dawson Knox there. He was placed on IR and might be done for the year. Apparently, I really wanted to talk about 65% of snaps because I wrote it twice. I think that was supposed to be targets. It was 6 targets he saw in the game. I think he caught all 6 of them, 92 yards. And honestly, early on in the game, he looked like it was going to be more than that. I think they made a concerted effort to get Diggs the ball as the game went on. So if you need like a wide receiver 3 flex type, they're playing the Bengals this week, which ought to mean a bit of a shootout, the way the Bengals have looked recently and the way the Bills defense has been. So I think that's a really good matchup to stream Shakir in if you need him.
Yeah.
If you need a little more time while you're looking up stuff on Tillman.
Nope.
Okay.
We can get into next guy, Jahan Dotson, Commanders wide receiver. 8 or more targets each of the last 2 weeks. Last week had 8 catches for 108 and a touchdown. They're finally getting him the ball, as they should have been the whole year. But
not just near the line of scrimmage, running like little dink and dunk routes.
Yep, he's a great player.
Okay. He might have been.
They're going to be behind. So
he might have been dropped in some leagues.
He was dropped. I dropped him in one league because someone came off IR. So
I dropped him in another. I dropped him in a league too. So yeah.
Pick him up.
Demario Douglas is the next name we'll bring up for the second week in a row for the Patriots. So now Kendrick Bourne's out. I'm pretty sure he actually bumped up to nearly 80% of snaps in week 8. And yet again, just like crushed it. Was far and away their most explosive player. And at this point, I mean, I would think that what they'll do is they'll kick Juju into the Bourne role because they really don't have anyone who can do what Bourne does for them. So Douglas is he's going to play all the time. To be honest, do you know who was actually second in snaps for the Patriots at receiver this week?
I do not. Who was? Was it Parker? No, he got hurt too.
Jalen Reagor.
That's gross.
They signed him to the full-time squad. He took over Parker's role already. So I think you're going to see Jalen Reagor and Demario Douglas as the starting receivers and 2 receiver sets with Juju coming on as the third option. And then, like Joe said, with Peanut Tillman, or it's Peanut Tillman. Wow, throwing it back there. With Cedric Tillman getting snaps opened up, I wouldn't be surprised. The Browns have been rumored to be after receivers all season long, so it wouldn't surprise me if there's a second piece to this where they go acquire a receiver separately. And I mean, he was a good player. He looked pretty good, honestly, in the preseason. He's more a speculative ad or potential target for dynasty leagues. I don't think it's actually going to be him, but we'll see.
Right now their option for third receiver is him or David Bell, who sucks. So
Yeah,
there's
I think
also some pre-draft bias there. So
there's going to be another move, but
there has to be.
all right. So trade away Justin Jefferson for Jacoby Myers, Deontay Johnson, plus Gabe Davis. 4-4 best receivers. Ayuk, who's on bye this week, deep at running back. Let's see. So 4-4, 2 weeks away from Jefferson, right?
Maybe.
The reports have been that he's coming back. I just couldn't remember. He was placed on IR.
Yeah, it would be 2 weeks.
2 weeks, right? So okay.
Jacoby or Deontay and Gabe.
I assume it's either Jacoby and Deontay plus Gabe with either one. I would link to do it if I could get Myers and Deontay probably.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm doing it for Gabe plus one of the other two.
Yeah.
I think it would be Deontay and Gabe that I would want because I'm terrified of that Raiders offense after this past week.
Yep.
So if you want to do it, those are the guys I would go for because Deontay had like 14 targets this past week.
Yeah.
And he's actually not being used solely as like a 5-yard turnaround catch the ball. He's actually, I think his average at the target is up at like 13 yards right now. He's actually being used downfield for once. So yeah, it's like
love to see that.
It's not dink and dunk. He actually had one of the highest unrealized air yard shares this past week. Which for anyone who doesn't know what that means, that just air yards, total yards, the ball was thrown in the air to a receiver on their targets. Unrealized air yards are the ones that were not completed.
It was a 25 sixth rounder going back to Cleveland for DPJ, just by the way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Kills Josh Reynolds a little bit. So we talked receivers. We had another receiver question.
Mike Evans, Zay Flowers, and Deontay Johnson rest of season.
So this is going to be a little team dependent.
Yeah.
Which I hate to say because I don't like being wishy-washy. All three are good options. We'll start there.
This is a good problem to have.
Yeah. Evans is the one I want if I want a big play, if I have like a consistent option who's going to catch a lot of passes. Maybe say A.J. Brown is my wide receiver one. I think I would want Evans upside in my 2 spot versus like a Deontay who's more of a floor play, going to make sure you get your 10 points week in and week out. Whereas if I had goodness, he stunk a lot of this year, but a Chris Olave as my wide receiver one, or maybe a Jalen Waddle who's a little more inconsistent. I think I would rather a Deontay. Zay Flowers is kind of in the middle for me. And honestly, he might be the lowest of the 3 just because his targets are ebbing and flowing a little bit, and he's not really the red zone guy. Seems to be Odell Beckham with Mark Andrews. So I think he's 3rd of the 3.
And a lot of Flowers, he's typically around 7-8 targets. But it's really what's an inconsistent is that air yards and the depth of target. Just 2 weeks ago, 4 for 75. This week, 5 for 19. It's like,
so he's Mike Evans, but without the touchdown upside.
Yeah.
So like, if I'm going to pay for that, I'm going to pay for or play that. I'd rather play the touchdown guy. And if not, I'd rather play Deontay. It just kind of depends what my other situation is at receiver.
I know both of us are Zay Flowers truthers, but I think he's 3rd on here.
Yep. And then, like I said, if I would need upside as my receiver, it's Evans. If I need safety, it's Deontay. But it's so team dependent. My initial reaction, if I had to just rank them in a vacuum, how I would actually want to draft them, it would be Evans, Deontay, Flowers because I want that upside. I will play a bunch of guys without floors if they all have a high ceiling. Just typically fantasy matchups aren't that close when you get down to it. Like a lot of them, they don't really come out as like a 1 or 2 point margin. Cup and Adams, yeah, that's pretty safe target volume. So I'm gonna take Evans there as my third, then Deontay, then Flowers.
In a vacuum, I would go Deontay over Evans. Tend to be more of the volume upside is where I like to go. But with the Cup and Adams duo, I would go Evans in this case.
And then we have tight end to touch on.
Oh, did we hit how we did last week on wide receivers?
We did.
We did not.
1, 2, and 1. Jake Bobo scored and was fine. The Packers receivers got killed because Christian Watson came back pretty fast and didn't really play all that hard, apparently. And Demario Douglas was fine. I gave us a tie on or a push on that one a little bit because, I mean, I do think realistically you got yourself a long-term guy if you got him last week, and that's why he's back on here again this week.
Absolutely.
So tight ends. We have one tight end to bring up, Logan Thomas of the Commanders. They're playing the Patriots, which unfortunately is not really the best matchup, but he's seen 6 or more targets in 3 of 4. He caught 6 balls and a touchdown for like 40-something yards last week. I mean, he's been pretty good, honestly, most weeks. I think the last time we called him out was the next week he had one catch, so we'll see if that happens again, and if so, he just won't ever be a call out. Just know to play him. But the Patriots have been pretty good. Duggar usually plays against the tight ends, so that's a little bit of a scary matchup, to be honest. He's
not ideal.
He can lock down tight ends pretty good. I want to bring up Juwan Johnson. So Taysom did well again because he ran the ball well, but Juwan Johnson of the Saints came back and is truly their starter and someone to play. And if for some reason you didn't listen to us last week when we said to pick up and play Trey McBride, pick up and play Trey McBride this week if he's still out there, because I think he was the tight end 1 last week over everyone. We went 1-0 last week because we didn't bring this up. 1-0, Trey McBride crushed it. And is a
Kyler's coming back.
Yeah, locked and loaded top 10 tight end until Ertz is back at a minimum. And when Ertz comes back, I do not see them taking McBride off the field to put Ertz back on.
Honestly, I'd be surprised if Ertz even really came back outside of a couple snaps here and there to keep the legs somewhat fresh for next year on a new team.
I mean, if they don't go get another receiver, and I'm them, I'm willing to play 2 tight ends with Hollywood and Michael Wilson.
Rondale. Rondale's exists, but kind of.
Yeah, so that's it. Any more questions? We're running a little long again. We're good at that.
Yeah, we are.
I think we hit them all.
I think so.
If you want to start the outro, we'll see if any more questions come in.
Yep. Thanks again for tuning in. And sorry about the little one being a little noisy over the last little bit. Again, go to idpguys.org, see our rankings, newsletter, subscribe, jump onto our Discord. Support is always loved. Our other podcasts, I know the IDP Plus one just dropped. And you can follow Justin at FFF Ballers and me at Jolo63. And where you can ask questions like this even after the show.
So we had a Thielen. Should I trade Thielen and Rachaad White for Devontae Adams? I would string that person along for a little bit because I want to see if Devontae Adams actually gets traded. If he does, I'm more willing to do it. As is right now, I'm probably saying no, honestly. I would keep Thielen and Rachaad White. Rachaad White, I think, is the only running back who's hit at least 70% of snaps in every game this year. Baker's checking it down to him. I think he's caught 5, 6, 7. It's gross, and he's not running the ball all that well. But I think he's actually getting better there too. I think you have a top 15 running back and a top 15 receiver in PPR leagues. And Adams has a higher weekly ceiling than either of them, but they're both really good players, and I think you can get someone more consistent than Adams for those two. How do you think?
Yeah, I'm on the same page there. It's just Jimmy has looked horrible. Their backups aren't good. He's pissed. It's if he gets traded, yeah, of course, but I would want to hold right now. Just Adams is scary.
All right, we had a cornerback question. Sneed, McDuffie, Cam Taylor-Britt, Benjamin St-Juste. So St-Juste has mostly been playing slot, I think, for the Commanders. Same with McDuffie.
Yeah. McDuffie is my pick here.
He's got the Sneed role from last year. That's why he's been playing so well. And that's the role I would probably chase more than the player in Sneed. So, yeah, I think I would drop him for McDuffie and only for McDuffie.
Completely agree.
I think Taylor, if you're looking for a 1 week play, like if you really need a win this week, I could see Taylor-Britt. He should get Diggs. I would imagine that they would have him shadow Diggs this week. So that should be a pretty good matchup for him to get some points on.
Yep. Josh, maybe throw a fireball nowhere near Diggs. But, McDuffie, Sneed, Cam Taylor, and then St-Juste would be my order. So
yeah, rest of the season.
Actually, yeah, for the right game. Yep. I don't see any other questions then.
Chiefs actually have the Dolphins this week, so that'll be fun.
In Germany.
So get them in your lineups early because that's
at a 9:30 Eastern start.
Yeah, I was gonna say 7:30 out here in the mountains.
Yeah, so don't forget to set your lineups. And as always, be on the lookout for the waiver wire once they run to see if anyone from the Broncos, Lions, 49ers, or Jaguars are dropped. Anyone moderate who should be a starter. If they're dropped, go ahead and pick them up. No one on by this week, so no one's really worried about from there. And thank you again for tuning in.
Have a great rest of your week and good luck with waivers.